Hello everyone, welcome to another video. I'm Randy, and this is the 11th in my series where I go through each year, tell you my favorite album, my favorite song, my favorite movie, and my favorite television show from each year. I started in 1950, we're all the way up to the 60s. Yes, we're in 1960, and one caveat is that I have to have a physical copy of whatever I choose. And for the TV series, they are only eligible their debut season, even though I will take the whole run of the series into consideration. My favorite album for 1960, my fourth runner-up. Usually I don't have fourth runner-up, I just start with three, but I had to include Julie London. This is her album, Around Midnight. Great interpreter with that sultry vocal style. This time working with a big orchestra instead of her usual small jazz combo. Her interpretations are still just as effective. Highlights include Round Midnight, Lush Life, and her version of Don't Smoke in Bed is my favorite, although I do like the Peggy Lee's classic hit version too. But you might know Julie London as an actress as well. She was in the TV series Emergency and has a classic cameo in the Jane Mansfield movie, The Girl Can't Help It. Yeah, Julie London, Around Midnight. My third runner-up, Elmore James, with an album originally titled Blues After Hours. It was later changed to The Blues in My Heart, The Rhythm in My Soul. I think the original title was better. But Elmore James was perhaps the most influential slide guitarist and is perhaps best exhibited with his updating of the Robert Johnson tune. He entitled Dust My Blues. It was originally titled, I Believe I'll Dust My Broom by Robert Johnson. But these tracks were recorded between 1952 and 1956 and put on his debut album. Other highlights include Sunnyland, Blues Before Sunrise, and After Hours, which I guess all the titles are on the front on this one. And this was on the United label. My second runner-up is Don't Tampa with the Blues with Tampa Red. Hudson Whitaker was his birth name, but he became known as Tampa Red for where he was raised and the color of his hair. Prominent in the 30s and 40s, his blues style had fallen out of favor, but was coaxed out of retirement with the revitalized folk blues movement, and he recorded this folk blues classic in 1960. With many tunes being reworked versions of his best songs. Some of them with kind of risque titles, depending on how you interpret them. But he had like, Let Me Play With Your Poodle, It's Tight Like That, Boogie Woogie Woman, Kansas City Blues. Yeah, this is a classic folk blues album, Tampa Red. Let's see, what was this on? A Prestige Bluesville label. My first runner-up, A Date with the Everly Brothers. There they are on the back. There's the tunes. But this was their fourth album by the brothers with the great harmonies. And the album has some gems such as Kathy's Clown, Made to Love, and Love Hurts, the first recording of the song that would later be covered by many other artists, including Roy Orbison and Nazareth, who both had hits with it. Also includes a pretty cool cover of Little Richard's Lucille. Yeah, Date with the Everly Brothers. On Warner Brothers. Favorite album from 1960. Unfortunately, I only have it on CD, and it's Bo Diddley is a Gunslinger. And there you can see the songs on the back. But yeah, Jerry Lee Lewis was known to reference himself in song lyrics. Bo Diddley went one better, naming songs after himself and albums too. Bo Diddley is a Gunslinger. This album only has Diddling as a song that he kind of named after himself. But it has interesting as the song 16 Tons, the Tennessee Ernie Ford had a big hit with it, written by Merle Travis. But he was messing around in the dressing room when he was to appear on the Ed Sullivan Show in 1955. And then Ed Sullivan wanted him to play that. Well, I guess when he saw the call sheet or whatever you want to call it, it had Bo Diddley on that. And of course, he has a song that was one of his big hits. It's actually called Bo Diddley. So that's what he played. And Ed Sullivan got really mad. Of course, got banned from the show. But if Ed would have waited for this album to come out in 1960, he could hear 16 Tons. Also has Cadillac on here, Ride on Josephine, and just got that Bo Diddley beat that he's famous for. And helping him on this, you got Willie Dixon on bass, Lafayette Leake, who played with Chuck Berry a lot, Otis Spann, the blues pianist. Also, Billy Stewart plays piano on here. He had some great hits himself. But yeah, Bo Diddley is a gunslinger. And if Ed Sullivan were around, I hope that he got to listen to 16 Tons. And now to my favorite song of 1960, the third runner-up. And from the album I already showed, A Date with the Everly Brothers. I think this is going to happen more often now. The songs that I pick are my favorite on some of my favorite albums. But yeah, it's going to be the song, I can find it here, Kathy's Clown. The song was written by Don Everly, and the title is pretty self-explanatory, but it has the great Everly Brothers harmonies and Floyd Kramer on piano. And the second runner-up by the great Fats Domino. It's the song Walkin' to New Orleans, written by Bobby Charles, a songwriter who had written the hit See You Later, Alligator for Bill Haley. He was also has a segment in The Last Waltz, although it was cut from the movie. But if you have the 3-record set like I do, you can hear his performance on there. Yeah, Bobby Charles wrote the song. This song was written for Fats Domino, and then Charles got the idea from having a conversation with him backstage, and Fats invited him to his home in New Orleans. Of course, I guess Bobby Charles didn't have a car at the time, so he thought of, walking to New Orleans to go see Fats Domino. The New Orleans Symphony also appears on this song, yeah. Walking to New Orleans, Fats Domino. My second runner-up. My first runner-up from probably my favorite female soul singer, and that's Etta James, and it's her song, At Last. Now, this is another tune that was given new life with Etta James' soulful vocals. The song was written for the 1941 movie Sun Valley Serenade and performed by Glenn Miller and his orchestra in that movie. But it became Etta James' signature tune and appeared on her debut album of the same title, which unfortunately I don't have, but I have this great compilation, The Sweetest Peaches, which is a 2-record set. And now my favorite song from 1960 by the great Chuck Berry, and it's Let It Rock. This is a great compilation, a great 28. I have the great box set that you can get with this and so much more. But yeah, Chuck Berry, Let It Rock, which was written and recorded by Chuck Berry on Chess Records and put on the album Rockin' at the Hops. Unfortunately, I don't have that one. It probably has my favorite rock and roll piano by Johnny Johnson. It also has the great blues songwriter Willie Dixon on double bass and Fred Bello on drums. One of my favorite early rock tunes, Let It Rock, Chuck Berry. I also want to say that I will have links below to a selection from my favorite albums, and also each of the songs I picked. I'll have a link below where you can listen to them if you want from YouTube. And now to my favorite movie from 1960. Now, last week I showed this as one of the critically acclaimed ones that I wasn't picking, but I didn't mean to show that one because this one actually came out in 1963. I meant to show the 400 Blows, the Francois Truffaut film, which is also great. I just didn't pick it as one of my favorites. But I am picking a Fellini film as one of my favorites for 1960, and that's La Dolce Vita. This movie is probably my favorite Fellini film, and looks at kind of the complexity of human nature. It follows a tabloid journalist and his dalliances in Rome. It has the famous Trevi Fountain scene with Anita Ekberg. Just a fantastic film. It's a little long, maybe for some people, but yeah, La Dolce Vita, my third runner-up for 1960. My second runner-up, The Apartment. Directed by Billy Wilder, Jack Lemmon stars as the insurance clerk who becomes an executive by letting company executives use his Manhattan apartment for their romantic rendezvous. Shirley MacLaine is wonderful as the object of Lemon's affection, the elevator girl who he falls for, but also one of the big executives is dating her as well. It's a comedy that also has very heartfelt and emotional scenes. It expertly blends the comedic and dramatic aspects, but it has some very good dramatic aspects in there as well. Also stars Fred MacMurray, and being not such a nice guy in this movie. But yeah, The Apartment, Billy Wilder classic. And my first runner-up is Spartacus, directed by Stanley Kubrick, starring Kirk Douglas. This is a 8-film collection of Kirk Douglas. But there you see him in Spartacus right there. That's the first movie in the series. There's the other films that are in this set. But yeah, fantastic epic with Kirk Douglas starring as the slave who leads a rebellion against Rome, with Laurence Olivier portraying Crassus, who hopes to crush the rebellion. It has many stirring moments with this bittersweet climax. Someone said he out-DeMilled DeMille. I'm not sure about that, but it is a wonderful film. Spartacus, starring Kirk Douglas. And my favorite film from 1960 is Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. Yeah, this was an easy choice for me, as Alfred Hitchcock has my favorite film in back-to-back years, as North by Northwest was picked in 1959. This proved that the master of suspense was just as good with horror movies. It was a masterful. It has a masterful performance by Anthony Perkins. So good, in fact, that it was hard for him to break away from this character. It has the classic shower scene where you think you see more than you do, and several other scenes that are still jarring no matter how many times I have seen them. It doesn't get much better than Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. And before I show you my favorite TV show from 1960, you know, I like to show off my television collection. In future years, I won't have as many to show, but maybe some of these might be your favorites instead of the ones I picked. But first, there's Checkmate, starring Doug McClure, Sebastian Cabot, and Anthony George, where they try to prevent crimes before they happen. Also, the Western Overland Trail, which starred Doug McClure and William Bendix. I was wondering how he could be in 2 shows at the same time. They had different shooting schedules, I guess. Then you have the Barbara Stanwyck Show, kind of anthology series where she actually appeared in most of them. I think there's only like 4 of these episodes where she wasn't in for the whole series. Then Journalist and Espionage in Hong Kong, and this great Rod Taylor series. Really enjoyed this one. Then you see Rod Cameron, not as a Western type star, in Coronado 9, which is actually his address, and I think it's a suburb of San Diego. But everybody tried to there's a scene where he comes out of the house and you see the Coronado 9 sign on the rock, and a lot of people have wondered where that house is, but I don't think anybody ever found out. But yeah, Coronado 9, Rod Cameron. How about a one-armed gunslinger with David McLean in the Western series Tate? And the last one that didn't quite make it is courtroom drama series The Law and Mr. Jones, starring James Whitmore. For my favorite television show of 1960, the third runner-up, The Westerner, This is a great Western developed by Sam Peckinpah that should have been a big success, but unfortunately only lasted 13 episodes. But it starred Brian Keith as the wandering cowboy Dave Blasingame with his faithful dog Brown. The cut and dry moral tales of most westerns at this time period weren't on display here. It was a series way ahead of its time, The Westerner. My second runner-up, Route 66. This is the complete first season. I have the whole series, but this stars Martin Milner and George Maharis as two young men drifting across America, but not always on the Mother Road. Each episode put the two in new situations, and reacting to the different characters they meet on their journey was always interesting. It has many similarities with the Jack Kerouac book On the Road, as the two protagonists try to find themselves on their journey. Yeah, Route 66. My first runner-up is the series Secret Agent / Danger Man. This is a British TV series known as Danger Man in the UK, retitled Secret Agent in the US. It starred Patrick McGoohan as Secret Agent John Drake. There are some similarities to James Bond, as he would introduce himself as John Drake, but he was less amorous, as McGoohan, I can't say his name, was not comfortable with romantic liaisons. Didn't really like to shoot those, so there wasn't as many. It didn't make it to the US till 1964, but I'm going with the British debut of 1960. Yeah, really fun series. Secret Agent / Danger Man. Actually, Danger Man sounds like a better series title to me, but yeah. And my favorite TV show from 1960, the anthology series Thriller. Not to be confused with the British series of the same name, which came out in the 70s. This series had Boris Karloff as the host and did introductions similarly to Alfred Hitchcock's and Alfred Hitchcock Presents. It was close to that show in scope with some nice crime thrillers, but what was really memorable were the horror episodes in this that were really good, some of the best in TV history. In fact, Stephen King says this is the best horror series ever put on TV. But two episodes to check out would be The Hungry Glass and Pigeons from Hell. Just fantastic. Thriller, my favorite TV show from 1960. And that's it. I hope you will put your favorites down below, because I always like checking out things that I don't know or haven't seen yet. So hope everyone's doing well, and everyone take care. See you in 1961.